Hey everyone, Chris Sawyer here. The Varietal Show is back. I am in the mountains. This is Kraemer. I'm pretty much in her office right now. We are at Shake Ridge here in Amador County. So you heard it right, Amador County. We're a little bit back from the camera because I want you to see this landscape behind us. It is a big piece of property, over 200 acres. Ann and I have known each other for a long time. I knew her from Napa Valley, where she was like one of the great designers of the vineyards of Napa Valley. A lot of people go, oh, I never really thought about who designs these vineyards. She did. And we've been friends since the 90s. And I kind of started watching her purchase this property and really start to grow grapes here. This is now 46 acres of vineyards. And this is in Amador County. If you don't know where that is, it is in the Sierra foothills. It's we have El Dorado County that's kind of just past Sacramento on the east side. Then the next county down is Amador County. It's actually where I was married. My grandfather's from Calaveras, which is just the next county down. So I like the foothills, and I like them a lot when we're tasting great wines up here. And tell us a little bit about, like, you're in Napa, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I like the foothills. Tell us a little bit about what the heck brought you up here, you and your sisters buying this piece of land.
Well, it took a lot more than just all of a sudden.
Yeah.
The whole time, I started working in Napa in 82, 83, and the whole time I was working as, for a vineyard management company, then as a vineyard manager, and then as a consultant. I kept looking for something I could buy, which I knew wasn't going to happen in Napa and Sonoma. And I started looking all around, and I mean all around. And a lot of people just kept joking that I could find the problem in anything, but I got really good at looking.
Yeah.
And so my dad called up one night and said, I'm going to sell a piece of property if you can find something I can trade, which meant it had to be really good quality for me and good pricing for him.
Yep.
That let's do it. And I talked to all my siblings, and everybody was willing and able by that time to help invest. And so I quickly focused on the foothills, knowing it was my best bet to find something. And when you do a trade, you have 45 days. So I work better under pressure.
Yeah, exactly. We're tasting the Yorba. This is actually her family's brand. And this is from Shake Ridge, which is right here. You also have 40 other producers that get fruit from this very site. And that's really impressive. And they're really good producers. Like, you're talking to a bunch of Napa Valley, like high-end people that have found a place that they can get some grapes that beyond Cabernet Sauvignon. What really kind of, once you got here, what were you thinking, and why did it become, in this case, Barbera and a lot of Rhones here on this property, Zinfandel, things like that? What really started you going, it's not the Cab zone, it's the other zone?
Yeah, and it was super exciting to be doing something other than what I was used to. I also had worked a lot in Pinot Noir in Napa and Sonoma, mostly Sonoma. Love Pinot, but also knew this was not where we would grow Pinot. So Amador has a long history of grape growing, and especially Zinfandel, an amazing.
Going back to the gold rush, you guys. I mean, it's like a long time ago.
Long time.
There's a vineyard here, 1869. It was planted in 1869. It's still alive. Those vines are still alive. They've outlived generations of people.
And delicious wine.
It is very good. It is very good.
So, it would have been easy just to plant Zin, but I also felt like there's enough Zin, and it was so exciting. This piece of property, as you can kind of get a feeling from what's behind us, but we have all these different slopes, all these different aspects, microclimates out of the yin yang. I mean, it's really good. And so I thought, as a consultant, I used to tell people, oh, you need to focus, just one or two reds, boom.
Focus.
Right? But I don't have to listen to myself. So we planted the first go around 14 varieties, and including some just test blocks of Bordeaux varieties that quickly was like, well, we don't need to do that. And And so the Barbera was just, there's great examples of Barbera, something I was not at all familiar with.
And we certainly are now.
And love it.
And
That's
we love
the
it.
block right behind us is Barbera. And then the Rhone varieties, I had good friends in Napa really push me to plant for them. And I kept thinking, oh, it's going to be more like southern France, more Provence. So we've got to make sure we have the Grenache and Mourvedre. And I didn't go out of the range on those. I should have, but maybe will in the future. And then Petite Sirah, I just thought would be a great
We got
blending.
a little block right over there.
And
really good.
and then I had 3 different winemakers really encourage me to follow up with the Tempranillo, which I'm really glad they did.
And we're going to taste the Tempranillo next. You know, some of these good, Helen Keplinger and Rehnquist, you know, for those of you that know Jeff Rehnquist, he gets a little part of here.
Bedrock,
you got
Turley.
Bedrock, Turley. I mean, this is amazing stuff that's really on this property. And if you can't really see enough of it, because I'm looking at parts over here and over here. And there's your little house. I've actually stayed there before, so I've gotten to see the backside and taken walks here. And you know, there's just some really donkey and goat and people that bought from you in the past.
No, they haven't ever.
Oh, they haven't? Oh gosh, I was
Mm-mm.
surprised.
Yeah.
Oh, those guys should, because this stuff's good. But one thing I want to say about Barbera, this area up here in the foothills, it's really made Barbera something in America. I mean, like, there's nothing better, no better area in California to grow Barbera than that.
Yeah, I think we have enough heat to tone down the acidity, which it has in spades.
Yeah.
But it's not too hot that you don't lose that a beautiful fruit.
Yeah.
And in fact, we often call it our white wine in a red dress, or gateway red, it might
So
be
cute.
said. So people that come into the tasting room and they said, oh, we don't like red wine. And I said, okay, do you want to just try this one?
Yeah.
Close your eyes. And they're very proud of themselves when they walk out and they realize, okay, Barbera's really lovely.
Yeah. And it's an interesting thing too, because it is kind of like, it is a little bit like Tuscany here, especially the mountainy areas of Tuscany, and being up here in the forest, which is right below us. What is our elevation like right here?
Right here, we're about 1750.
1750. So this is really, you're up almost past, like in Atlas Peak in Napa Valley is about 17.
But what's interesting, you see behind us, the tip of the ridge, you'll see some ponderosa pines. And they don't grow. Typically, you don't find them until 2,500 feet.
Right.
And something I hadn't realized when I was looking at the property before we bought it is that, and you'll find this is true in a lot of places in the foothills, you can be cooler than what your elevation says. Because of cold air drainage coming off of the Sierras.
That's true. And there's also, because you're on kind of a knoll here, you've got some big valley behind you, and you've also got some areas off to the side here where the wind is kind of coming through in different ways. And so it can get cold here. I mean, believe me, you guys, it snows up here. I mean, it really does. And there's no doubt about that.
April 5th, I got home from a vacation and I drive up and it is snowing on April 5th.
Yeah.
And there was still snow on the ground.
Crazy.
The next day. Yeah.
And it's good to play with dogs here too, just FYI, and they are real here. So, you know, we get to taste this, and I just think that, you know, it takes me back to Italy, but it's like, I just want some really fresh, almost like heirloom tomatoes that are made into a tomato sauce instead of just like domestic ones. You know, I want something really good, because this really has that tanginess to it. That's what a great Barbera really has.
It has that earthiness.
It does. Yeah. Earthy, tangy. But where we're at, I mean, we're looking at forest. I mean, this is real, you guys. And, you know, where we're at inland from, you know, the ocean's a long ways that way. We're pretty much a long ways. I'll tell you, it'd take me an hour. It'd take me over 2 hours to get here from Sonoma County. So it is what it is, you know, and that's good traffic. And that's not typical around Sacramento, that area. It can be bad, but you know, it's an amazing spot, and I'm just so glad that you have it. But there are different faces here. So what are some of the other grape varieties? And I'm going to pour some Tempranillo right now for us.
Well, I gave the Syrah the coolest seats in the house. So the Syrah, because I was so worried that it wasn't going to be cool enough for it. Because I'm a fan of Northern Rhone Syrahs more than Southern Rhone or the Shiraz.
Yeah.
And again, but those Southern blends are so beautiful.
Yep.
But again, we ended up the first year, did this 100% Syrah, and it's probably my family's favorite.
Yeah. Syrah is so great. And what I like about it growing up here is you can grow it in very hot climate conditions. I mean, go to Australia, it's hot. And you can grow it out near the ocean, so it's cool climate Syrah. But here, it's kind of a little balance of both, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. It has feet in both continents, you could say. But this is our 2007, and so that's the other beautiful thing about how nice
we'll taste that in a minute. But we're tasting the Tempranillo first.
We had the Tempranillo.
So,
okay.
Tempranillo, one of the things about the Yorba vineyard, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the Tempranillo was, as I said, let's go back a little bit, because you asked about what went where.
Yeah.
So Syrah got the coolest spots. Zin got the second coolest, because again, I'm a very much of a fan of those more moderate Zins. At the time, 20 years ago, the vineyard's 21 years old this year.
Oh my God.
It's a birthday. We're going to give it a little.
We're going to give it a good birthday.
Yeah. So the Zin also, so we have a lot of north-facing slopes, northeast-facing slopes, where there's good cold air drainage. So those are all our cooler spots. Just over to our left, that you can't see, but is this great slope that's facing southwest.
It's going about this angle.
And pretty steep. And so that's where the Mourvedre block went for the first planting. And it just, by having that angle, one vine doesn't shade the next as the sun starts setting. And so it just probably gets a good hour more of photosynthesis. And just facing southwest, it's got that heat that it helps Mourvedre ripen up, which it can have a problem in the foothills. Whereas Grenache is behind me, and it's facing also kind of west, but with some good cold air drainage. Where on the far side of the hill, on that side, is a southeast block that has Zinfandel. And so we just try to give, and the Barbera, on the other hand, can handle heat because it's got this acidity. And so it's both in a west-facing block over past that way, and then this one down between us, you can see it's this nice swell, but it's facing true south. Yeah,
true south. Like that's south, you guys. So that's south.
So I had these places I could kind of give everybody their own home. And the climate, hopefully, that they liked.
It's awesome.
And after 21 years, I think they did.
So let's go back to Tempranillo. Oh, there he goes.
So the Tempranillo was this afterthought.
Yeah. But it's also kind of going back to the name of the Catalonian history, where it's Yorba. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the Yorba, Yorba's an old family name, and it was a Catalonian that came to what would become California in 1769. If you see at the bottom of the label, I don't know if you can see, those are old cattle brands from the 1800s, because that initial Yorba stayed and had been in the military, was with the Portola expedition. So my apologies to anybody in the indigenous First Nation. But they came through, and he stayed and had a lot of offspring. And those offspring had a lot of offspring. So
it's called population, you guys.
And so that was the deal. They weren't going to send them back to the continent. They were to stay here, and they gave him a piece of land, and he started farming. But we mostly wanted to use Yorba. It was a great old family name, but my dad was a third generation Yorba orange grower. So it was more in deference to him and changing crops, because the oranges, I tried farming with him for a couple of years in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, and it was just, writing was on the wall. The water was too expensive, that he wasn't going to be able to keep it up. And so he kind of encouraged me to go find something else. And I did. I found grapevines, but we just thought it would be fun to, instead of Yorba orange growers, we would be Yorba wine growers.
That's awesome.
So that's where the Yorba
and here it is.
and therefore Tempranillo.
and it's great.
I was super worried about Tempranillo being a low acidity.
Yeah.
But it's got this amazing tannin structure that makes up for it.
Yep.
And then we had planted 25% Graciano.
Yep.
Which
thinking, is great. Yeah.
Thinking we would need it all, but we rarely go over 5 to 8%.
That's
it's
awesome.
all it needs. Yeah.
That's awesome. So these are Spanish grape varieties. Catalonia is a very well-known region for them. Tempranillo, kind of a funny, interesting story about it. Its success here in America is it was tried, actually. It goes back to the Jackson Ranch out here, that UC, University of California system, back when it was actually at Berkeley before it moved to Davis, was testing this back in the 1880s. It goes back to, I think it was 1887 or something. There's the charts of what they had planted there, and Tempranillo was one of them. It did not make it into like the, oh yes, let's plant more of this. It really wasn't there. And then once again, after the Prohibition ended, there was another test done, and they said, no, it's not going to work here. It's never going to work in California. They just didn't have the right cuttings, and they didn't have the right places. Tempranillo has become successful here. It's very good, not only here, but also Southern Oregon. It's really good up there. I mean, it's like kind of underpriced, you guys. But but this is like, we're tasting the 2013 right now, and this is like, man, it's tasting really good right now. This makes me want red meats and to really have a nice, like, maybe almost like a stew or something like that, especially when we get into this, you know, we're still in the springtime, but almost like a spring stew, you know, with some really nice fresh vegetables and things like that in there. But it's just, it's got a softness, it's got depth, but it's still smooth. You know, that's what I like so much about it.
And people will ask me, you know, well, I'm a Cabernet drinker, and I say, okay, well, try the Tempranillo, because it has the same kind of tannin backbone, except it's very soft.
Yep.
And then, but its fruit is so lively and pretty.
Yep. It certainly is.
Yeah.
It's amazing. There's a lot of fruit in here. It's got some blue fruits. There's a little bit of blueberry, but also some nice red plums, some cherries. Really nice touch. A little bit of brambly stuff going on in there. It's just delicious, you guys. And I mean, that's why the Yorba is like, it's kind of like a little sweet spot in my heart. I always, anytime I'm with her, I'm always trying more stuff of hers. It's really fun. You know, this is another thing about Anne. She has a lot of followers up here, and I've had the luxury at her little, their little production facilities down there. And we did that Cabernet Franc tasting. Like, so all these people from around here just brought some wines, and like, it's kind of blind, and we were tasting them, and it was just super fun. You know, a really great little community up here.
It's an amazing community.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're way separate from the main Shenandoah Valley, but when I have a tractor issue, I can call somebody and they'll come over. It's just, it's been delightful to be part of town. We're right outside of the little town of Sutter Creek. In fact, that's where our tasting room is. I don't want to make people drive up this road. Yeah,
this is a funny little name of a road too. What's it called?
Shake Ridge.
Shake Ridge. Well, but there's Gopher
Flat.
Gopher Flat up here. That's what you have to take to get through. And like, oh, really? I got to go up Gopher Flat? Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, we have a lot of gophers. I just keep putting up owl boxes to let them
that's
do
great.
the dirty work for me.
And that's a really great way. I mean, you are a great farmer, but you're also very organic, sustainable, all those kinds of things that you really just, you know, you live here.
I live here.
You live on the property. You know, you're not spraying a bunch of stuff all over the place. It just doesn't work that way anymore. And we have so many ways of going around that. And I mean, just also these angles and these kinds of things. You learn so much there being a designer in Napa Valley about like the ways that vineyards go. It's really what she was saying about that vineyard right there in that Mourvedre. It's really about how the sun is going to set and where it's going to hit it. You really want to cover it at the really hottest point. But there's so many angles here. Yeah.
So you do your best. Safety is the most important.
Exactly.
But I do have rows going every which way. My ideal row direction would be more east-west with a kink towards the north. And that keeps the sun overhead and less photosynthesis.
Exactly.
And but then by having that slight northeast southwest, it keeps the south side from getting burnt. As the sun, come August, September, the sun's starting to settle farther south, and you really worry about the south side getting too much heat and the north side not seeing enough. And so by just angling it that little bit, we were happy. But where I couldn't put that road direction on these slopes, we either changed the trellis system to be kind of offset to the west to kind of shade the west side from the afternoon sun, or we went to head training, which is the old
school.
Old school.
It's old school, guys.
But it should be new school.
Yeah, new school, old school. A lot of stuff going on up here.
And it's, I hadn't had any experience with head train vines. Dave Gates from Ridge.
Yep.
It's a good friend, and he helped me, taught me how to train vines to be head trained, and very happy with, especially as it's warming up and it is getting hotter, it's a really nice light environment. Not all varieties are suited to it if they're too floppy, but given the ones, I would do more and more of that. You have less production because the vines are spread farther apart, but they really need a little bit less hand care to have the quality. So it's a trade-off. And
it's amazing. Speaking of amazing, this Syrah, hello, loving this. I'm really into the nose, and then you taste it. This is a 2007, you guys. It's like, it's just awesome, And so this would be like, so like, let's see. This is your 21st year, so this would be almost like your first making of it, because it was the third. So, okay, so but those 2020, 2001 is when you...
No, we found the property in 2001, planted in 3.
Okay, in 3. Okay, that's me. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
So first harvest was in 5. Had a little bit.
Maybe I just wanted to say 2001 Space Odyssey, but they didn't land here or anything. But
but if we did, that's when we landed here. So.
But man, this is great. It's got a lot of grip to it, but it's so, it's matured well in the bottle, and I just really wanted her to bring out one of the older bottlings because, it's not just that they're yummy right off the bat, but they're actually very age-worthy too. I mean, that's what Syrah is, why it's a legendary grape. Some people get it, some people don't anymore. I feel like some of that was because of, the success of the Australian wines that really put it on tables, and then they started realizing, oh yeah, we do make good stuff here in California. But I think that it's also kind of, some of the Australian wines are really big now, and you're like, oh, I don't really like that stuff. Today in California, we're making extraordinary Syrah, and I think that people that really are getting into Syrah are super happy with what we're doing. And I think that this is a great... How much Syrah do you have planted on this property?
8 acres.
8 acres.
No, wait. 6 acres.
6 acres.
6 acres.
And how much Grenache?
I should know these numbers right off. We have probably 4 acres of Grenache.
Okay, and then you've got
3 of Mourvedre.
3 of Mourvedre, so you can make a GSM. That's what those are the 3 grapes, the GSM. And then you've got some Zinfandel.
Yes,
and you've got some Tempranillo.
That was the 8.5.
Yeah, that's the 8.5. How much Petit Syrah?
3.
3 acres. Anything?
I would love more.
Yeah. Do you have any white grapes on here?
We do. We originally thinking it was but we started. Yeah. So we planted the first 36 acres in 2003, and then in 2009 we planted 12 more acres behind the house.
Yeah.
And in that first planting, I had some prejudice against the foothills being too hot, and that it'd be too hot for really nice white wines, and quickly learned that was false. Yeah. We had just half an acre of Viognier.
Yeah.
So our Syrah winemakers, if they wanted to do that northern Rhone of adding 2 to 3% for co-ferment. So I had this little half acre, and then that first year we gave everybody their little couple pounds of this and that, and then Andy Erickson took the rest of it and made a gorgeous Viognier.
Yep. Yeah. Andy's a legend from Napa Valley. If you don't know Andy, he's a legend, as is, Helen Keplinger is like one of the greatest woman winemakers right now, and she gets fruit from here too. And it's just amazing. Viognier is a great grape.
Oh my God. And it was because I had only had some that now I realize were just overdone.
Yeah.
And this was beautiful and had a lot of character. And so when we planted in 2009, Helen wanted more, Flavia wanted more, and other people were definitely in line. And so I put in a block in the other 9 acres. It was harder to find cool spots. Yeah. And so I had this one spot, and yes, it's been frosted a couple of times because of it, but it needed to be as cool as I could. And then we decided for Yorba. By that time, we were making Yorba wine, and realized we should have a white. And so I need to give a shout out to Ken. So in a moment, I will give a shout out to Ken. But Ken and I Ken's our winemaker for Yorba, and we sat down and tasted through a lot of ones that we thought would be fun. And we settled on Greco de Tufo. And it was just available to have budwood. And so we just planted this funny little block in the far back. And it makes an amazing wine. It just has such low production. Yeah. That I can't encourage anybody.
Yeah, we were gonna bring it here, but it's back there. We left in the fridge,
and it's too far.
I'm definitely gonna drink some when we get back to her little camp area back there. Yeah. So it's just amazing, really, your success here, and the people stand in line for this fruit. It's great farming, and it takes great grapes to make great wines, you guys. And there's nothing better than a great vineyard like this. It's someone that really cares so much, as Ann Kraemer does, about this vineyard.
I am very particular. But the thing is I love, like, in a couple of weeks we're going to have, doing it every 5 years, but I'll invite all the winemakers out so we can taste each other's wines. But when you taste how different the wines are from the same grapes, I think of it as I can give them really good ingredients, but it's really important the decisions they make at that point, including I make them make their own harvest decision. Yeah. That's in our contract. Yeah. They've got to make, call it when it's time.
And that's actually a big deal, you guys, because some growers will say, no, you got to pick it now. That's the kind of thing. They want it done. They have their labor at certain points. You do it, you allow them to make it the way they want it to do it. Some people pick a little bit riper than others. Some people pick super non-ripe.
Yeah, and it's fun to, I usually, because I'll learn something.
Yeah, and then you taste the finished product where you're like, oh, that can't work. And then you taste it, you're like, oh, it's really good.
It's really good, or it's really different. Or you've convinced them maybe wait a little longer next time. But not change their style either.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, let's give a shout out to Ken.
So where we got wines like this that do have such life to them is from Ken Bernard's. His own winery is called Ancien. He's based in Napa Valley, but he focuses on Pinot Noirs from all over.
He has from Willamette Valley down to Santa Rita Hills. He's also an international winemaker, very good friend of mine, and there is a great show on Ancien that I did with him for the Varietal show as well. I love Ken. He's a really great guy, and we can't shout it out enough for that guy. I mean, the guy can make a lot of different grape varieties too. It's kind of an interesting thing. If you have Cabernet producers trying to make Pinot, it's going to take a few years for them to even understand the concept of Pinot. Here's a Pinot Noir maker that started making cabs and things like that. So he has such a great touch, and it's really fun to hang out with him.
Yeah, and our wines take a long time to come around, but I had told him I wanted to protect the fruit because I saw Yorba as being a way to sell grapes. And I didn't want him to be super stylistic or anything. And Ken was the best winemaker I knew. I used to do his vineyard work. So we worked a lot together. We were both at Domaine Chandon in the early 90s.
Exactly. We're talking about a long time ago that they were together. And believe me, the story about him, like, look it up, the Ancien and Chris Sawyer. and you can see the great show that I did with him, because he's a really interesting story. He's actually from Oregon. He's actually a beaver from Oregon State University, not a duck. And he'll tell you, man, geez, sorry I said that, you know. But the man can make wine. But it's a great thing. Just all these people that really do not rely, but they just want this fruit. It's everything about this vineyard that makes it so special. We're up here in the Sierra foothills. Who would have thought, you guys? But it's a very important thing to have a great grower like Ann Kraemer and all these people that we're talking about, because they come together because of the greatness of grapes grown in the right places. And you really have done a great job.
Yeah, and I have to say I've met so many really wonderful winemakers. Yep. And often, you know, this is a tough business, and there's almost always something comes free. And I first go to the people that are getting grapes already, just check if they want to make adjustments, if they want to switch blocks, you know, move around. But then I'll go to our waiting list, and there's always, it's just somebody new who just has that spark that makes me want to give it a go.
Yeah.
And
so great.
It's been really fun.
Yeah. And I'll be back here in a couple weeks just to be with her and a bunch of these winemakers, and we'll do a tour around here. I didn't say no because I just like Ann too much, and I want to taste. I want to be here with the winemakers. I've been here many times, but I really want you guys to see what I see here and why Ann Kraemer is. She's a guru in my book. You know, this girl can grow amazing grapes, and it shows in every bottle here, but also in the bottles of finished wines by other wineries. So yorbawines.com, you got to look her up, you got to buy some of this wine, you got to just get to know Ann better. You can go back and like look up the who's who about who really does buy from here. But it's an amazing vineyard, and it's up here. Like these guys, these Gold Rush people, they weren't crazy. They really did start growing up here, and like it's really right over the hills here where we're looking at Shenandoah Valley and some old stuff. You know,
actually, we have our own gold mine.
Oh, don't tell anyone. It's a gold mine on this property. Okay.
No, it's a hand dug pit.
Oh,
it's
sorry,
about 20 feet deep.
Yeah.
Yeah. But apparently they got gold out of it at some point.
Okay. Well, there we go. So that's the beauty of it, you guys. Hey, listen, Highway 49, go 49ers. You know, that's the reason it's called the 49ers, the football team, and it's the reason that Highway 49 is called that too. These were the miners that came here, and they found some other things, places to grow grapes, and it's cool. So thanks for watching. We'll be back next time with more great stuff on the Varietal Show. Thanks once again, and thank you, Ann Kraemer. Yay!
Thank you.